everyone, Weeb here, and welcome back to Remember Mii, a series of reviews/retrospectives where I highlight, reminisce, and celebrate a variety of titles from the Nintendo Wii's library. With there being many games that are obscure, or maybe some of you have never even heard of before, I hope to bring these games forward in order for them to not be forgotten. With that being said, let's get started with today's episode about a little game called Rodea the Sky Soldier that never quite got to soar to its full potential. The year was 2010, and Yuji Naka, best known for his time as the head of Sonic Team, now had his own studio. Having managed to escape the disaster that was Sonic 06, and with a couple of modest titles under his belt, Mr. Yuji Naka had his sights set on a new project that he described as a very original action game based in the sky. Jump forward to January 2011, and Prope's new title was announced for the Wii and 3DS. Known at the time as Rodea the Sky Knight, the Wii version was to be developed by Prope, while the game's publisher, Kadokawa Games, would work on porting the game to the 3DS. Remember earlier when I said that thing about this being a game that never quite got to achieve its full potential? Well, Kadokawa Games is kind of to blame for that. You see, September of that year saw a statement by Naka admitting that though the Wii version made by Prope was complete, they were currently waiting for Kadokawa Games to publish the title and greenlight a potential release. However, due to the 3DS version not being complete and, in fact, taking longer than expected due to the difference in the two systems' hardware, Prope would just have to keep waiting.
One eternity later.
It wasn't until July of 2013 that Kadokawa Games finally gave any sort of update, announcing that the 3DS version was about 70% done. Upon being asked if the title could still be expected for both the 3DS and Wii release, Kadokawa Games president Yoshimi Yasuda reiterated that neither the Wii nor 3DS versions had been cancelled. So that's good, right? The title that Naka and the rest of his team worked so hard on would still see release then, right? Though Yoshimi Yasuda assured everyone that both versions of the game would still see release, November of 2014 saw Kadokawa Games announcing that with the Wii being old news at this point, and the Wii U being the new hotness, the home version of the game had switched platforms from the Wii to the Wii U. And oh yeah, the Wii version would be a port not of the game that Naka and his team had created and had been sitting on for years at this point awaiting release. Oh no, it would be a port of Kadokawa Games' very own 3DS version. If at this point you feel like Prope had gotten the short end of the stick, what with basically being pushed out of their own project, don't worry, it gets worse. Almost as if to add insult to injury, the Pro version of the game never even saw its own release, instead tossed in as a limited time free bonus for first print copies of the Wii U version.
I'm so depressed I can't even blink.
Alright folks, shifting gears for a moment, let's talk about what Rodea the Sky Soldier even is and the structure of the game. The game opens with Garuda, a flying sky continent, under attack by the Naga Empire. Wishing to save Garuda from invasion, Princess Cecilia takes an artifact known as the Key of Time, and together with her robot bodyguard Rodea, she flees with the key. However, they don't get very far before Cecilia's airship is shot down, and Naga's machine soldiers begin to close in. Knowing that she'll only slow him down, Cecilia explains that the key will only work if it is in one piece, so she divides it in two, gives one half to Rodea, and then teleports him away despite his protests. Devastated by the turn of events, Rodea shatters his right arm and renders his programming unstable, causing him to shut down as he thinks about Princess Cecilia. 8,000 years later, Rodea is called back into action when he's not only repaired and brought back online by a girl named Ion, but the ruler of the Naga Empire, Emperor Gyardo, appears to announce a new invasion. Remembering that he must protect Garuda, Rodea sets off to fight the machine soldiers, with Ion following him close behind aboard her airship. Now, getting into the actual gameplay side of things, Rodea the Sky Soldier definitely takes inspiration from some of Yuji Naka's previous titles, feeling like an interesting mix between Nights into Dreams and Sonic. Basically, stages are built as a series of floating islands with gravitons, which are this game's collectibles, enemies, power-ups, the terrain, and any other mechanics strewn about. Now, most of the time, your mission is to fly forward, and similar to Knights, you'll find yourself zipping through the skies as you collect stuff, zoom through rings, and enjoy the general momentum of flying. Just like Knights, you even have a boost that is quite reminiscent of the Drill Dash. However, at other points in the game, you may also be tasked with collecting objects, hitting switches, destroying groups of enemies, defeating bosses, etc. It is during these parts of the game that Rodea's handling and the world around him just feel like Sonic. From the item capsules there throughout the world, to the way Rodea will follow through a path of collectibles automatically, to his attack that recoils a certain way, several mechanics seem ripped straight out of Sonic Adventure. Levels are even broke down similar to the acts in Sonic, where you're graded at the end based on things like how fast you were and how many gravitons you collected. Now I know what you might be thinking. Despite all the negative stuff at the beginning that I mentioned, the game looks fine and it seems to play quite well, so what's the problem? The problem is that what you have been seeing on screen up to now is footage of the Wii version of the game, aka the better version, with vibrant colors, intuitive motion controls, indefinite flight, and a steady frame rate that usually approaches 60 FPS. Here is what the Wii U version of the game looks like. Not only does this version of the game feature significantly less saturated colors and struggles to even reach 30 FPS, but the controls are clunky and harder to use in comparison too. Whereas the Wii version is as simple as pointing somewhere on the screen, flicking the remote as you press B to fly, and then additionally pressing A to attack, the Wii U version requires many tedious steps to basically achieve the same. First, begin by pressing A to jump, and then press it again to enter pre-flight mode. Once you're in pre-flight mode, you need to choose where you want to fly by using the left control stick to move the cursor on screen. Once you've chosen your destination, you can finally press A once again to move Rodea towards the reticle. Don't worry though, if this still doesn't sound too needlessly complicated, remember that the Wii U version has a flight meter, allowing for only about 10 seconds of flight before needing to land or collect gravitons to recharge. I don't know about you, but if I had a choice between this and this, I know what I'm picking. It would be great if I could tell all of you during this section that everything ended up fine for Yuji Naka and his company, that they shook off the dirt, bounced right back, and are still making creative titles to this very day. Unfortunately, life isn't always fair though, and I'm sorry to admit that Probe never really did make a comeback. Though they released a few mobile titles and even some Digimon games, the studio was reduced to a one-person company, and Naka jumped over to Square Enix in 2018. As for what came out of this partnership, oh boy, is that a story for another time. Still, if there is a bright side to all of this, then it's that at least we got this wonderful quote from NF Magazine, where the reviewers suggest that people interested in the game should, and I quote, buy Rodea the Sky Soldier for Wii U, toss the Wii U disc into a nearby sewage canal, pop the Wii U disc into your machine, and let her spin. As for how likely you are to be able to do this though, that's another story. As mentioned earlier, the Wii U version only saw release as a limited time bonus, making it pretty hard to come by. And while searching on eBay does yield a few results, these are few and far between. Still, I would say not to give up hope if you're interested, as there is always the chance a used game store could have a copy hidden away. I mean, it worked for me at least, seeing as how I actually managed to pick one up at GameStop for only a few bucks. At the end of the day, Rodea the Sky Soldier is a game that really got screwed over due to circumstance. While in its original iteration, the game is a fun mix of interesting mechanics and channels the feeling of other classics Yuji Naka has worked on, it was ultimately pushed aside in favor of an inferior product. Creative, colorful, and just downright fun to play, I hope that this is a title that reaches out to all of you watching and says, Remember Mii. If you know any other Wii games that would be a great fit for the series, let me know in the comments below, or feel free to hit me up over on Twitter. Until next time, keep those tails fluffy and your ears clean.